Welcome to the Week 1 review of the NFL here at Good Teams Win, Great Teams Cover. We're here to break down all of the action, all of our bets and our picks for the week and talk through everything that happened during Week 1. Joe, Byron, with me as always. Welcome, chaps. How did you enjoy your Week 1?
Very mixed week. Football was fun, if sloppy. Picks were okay. Bets were less so.
Bets less said about that, the better. Although that's all I'm going to talk about because I had a relatively good week. The reverse for me. Joe, how was your Week 1?
Yeah, it's a bit average on both, to be honest. Had like decent picks and won some bets as well. But yeah, it was just good to have football back and spend a full day on Sunday from early morning till the evening. Just watching football and chilling out. It was fun to be back.
Fun. It's great. I almost forgive Week 1 for being a bit sloppy, just because you've gone so long without it that kind of I'm okay that it's a bit naff at times. But we got a few really, really good games. I think a few sort of high quality games, which we'll talk through, and lots of headlines. And I think there's only one place to start, and it's got to be Monday Night Football. Jets against the Bills. And we saw Aaron Rodgers for 4 plays as a Jet before he went down with what now has been confirmed as a completely torn Achilles tendon, which is brutal. And that certainly just took all the air out of MetLife Stadium last night. Guys, you were watching it. What can you say? Yeah, how was it watching kind of Rodgers go down like
that? It's brutal, isn't it? Like that's Jets' hope season lasted 4 plays and punctured in great drama. Like I can't think of anything similar really that's happened in. Russell Wilson flamed out in Denver, but like he played and he was just bad. I can't think of, Tom Brady went as a veteran and was good. Matthew Stafford went and won a Super Bowl. And kind of that's, the Jets have dreamt it all off season and then 4 players in and it's, remember how much we like Zach Wilson? Everybody get back on board. Brutal. I feel so much for Jets fans.
Yeah. I feel bad for them. Yeah. I mean, not even to get, they didn't even see a completion. They didn't even get a completed pass for him.
No.
It was just brutal, and
being real about it, like that might be Aaron Rodgers' career.
Yes, that was what I was about to say. The questions are: can somebody who's 39, about to turn 40, come back from a very, very significant injury? And I suppose really what we should, it's a shame we're not sat here talking about a Rodgers v. Allen duel, and that we've just seen a game with kind of a rookie wide receiver with a walk-off punt return touchdown in overtime in Xavier Gibson, who we just saw had a great moment on Hard Knocks, being told he was going to stay on last week. And instead we're here talking about kind of how the Jets season could implode. Joe, I suppose, is there a way that the Jets can manage through this, given what they've done? They had a really strong defense last year. They've got the skill position players. They have improved in this offseason, not just with, having got Rodgers. Is there a way the Jets can salvage something out of this season?
It's tricky to figure out what is salvageable. Like if they go like, let's say 8-9, 9-8, you'd be like, oh, that's actually been a good season with where they're at now. Just because the defense are going to win them some games because their defense was awesome. Definitely like they're probably top 3 defenses in the league. And if they can keep doing that. But it was just watching like Zach Wilson again is only just, he only came in halfway through, wasn't expected to play. But even with last year as well, it just didn't feel comfortable. It just didn't think like it's more, is he going to lose a game rather than is he actually going to win some? And I think when they start playing, because I know they've got a few good games coming up and they're not always going to get the other quarterback throwing 3 interceptions and having a terrible game. And they need the quarterback to act. It's basically what was similar to last year. Like the Jets should have been a playoff team with all their team except the quarterback. Yeah. So it's this year they're going to stick with Wilson. I'll be curious to see if they will look on the market for any veterans out there, or maybe give it a few weeks and see if they can trade someone. Because it did feel like it was like an all-in kind of season. So are they just going to waste it with Wilson? I wonder if he has a few bad games, if they're willing to trade any picks for any other quarterbacks which are available.
I mean, if you believe what there's lots of rumors doing the rounds, but if you believe what you read, apparently Colin Kaepernick's reached out to the Jets, and Colin Kaepernick and his people have reached out to the Jets about potentially helping out.
I've reached out to everyone though. So.
Possibly, but
I almost think any one of us three has as much chance of taking a snap for the Jets this year as Colin Kaepernick. He hasn't played football for so long now.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was a big Kaepernick fan, and I do think he was very unfairly treated by the league generally. But like, it's 2023 now. Like,
I think it's 7 years now.
Yeah, he's not playing in the NFL.
And the few quarterbacks which have been mentioned have been. I know Wentz has been mentioned, who's now with a team. Someone's mentioned like Winston or Jacoby Brissett as like traded for like fourth round for Jacoby Brissett, just so you do have an average quarterback instead of someone who's going to ruin your season. But then, like I said, I wonder if like in a few weeks' time, let's say the Titans are having a terrible year, would they be willing enough to give something for Tannehill or something like that? So I'll be curious to see if they go that direction. And because now they've saved the first round pick for next year, so it's only a second rounder. So I wonder if they'll be more willing to give up some capital for an average decent quarterback if Wilson flames out.
Yeah, it feels like. Go on, sir.
I don't know if they're going to be able to use that first round pick yet, though. Because I know like it's not going to be activated, but I think Green Bay would have to agree that it is a second round pick until the end of the season.
I'll be surprised. Yeah, I'll be surprised if they give a first round pick. I just meant they might be more willing to give like a third and a fourth to a team because they know they've got their first rounder.
I find the market so fascinating for this kind of thing as well, because like it's, people come out and say like, let's just trade for Brissett or Mike White from the Dolphins or Winston, like you said, but it's like, he's a fourth round pick. Like Washington have paying Brissett well as a backup because they want a good backup.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't really see what the draw is for like these teams who've got a good backup. It almost feels like it'd be crazy to do it, but like I'd be more inclined to go to Dallas and see what Trey Lance is or see what Cooper Rush is available for because they've got a third quarterback who's kind of competent, maybe.
When if they got Sam Darnold again, get him back.
Yeah, well, it's that same issue. But then, like, the 49ers just got Brandon Allen then. It's like, 49ers have really put themselves on a hot seat to maybe have to pay down the road.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the solution is for the Jets. I think I'd rather just go with Wentz and hope for the best.
Go on, Paul.
It's such horrible situations, isn't it? Because if you go chasing a quarterback and try and get somebody, then you're going to get fleeced ultimately because teams know you're desperate.
Yeah.
Ultimately, Robert Saleh was quick and he was no messing about last night to say Zach Wilson's going to be the start till the end of the season. And I don't know if there's a bit here that Rodgers still does have a huge part to play. Look, my gut says he ain't going to pack. He's not going to at least. I don't think he's not going to try and rehab this and try and come back. And whether actually if it just becomes too difficult or what it is just because of his age and things like that. And we know now that age isn't as much of a factor as maybe it used to be, right? Especially for some of these quarterbacks. And there's no doubt he's looked after himself over the years and all of that. But there's a huge part Aaron Rodgers can play here in helping Zach Wilson out. Yeah. I think in between that and I think probably last night was maybe unfair to say, have we seen any development in Zach Wilson or not? Because you're just thrown in, that's a horrible situation. You haven't adjusted the game plan on the fly.
And the Bills are a good defense.
Yeah, and the Bills have a very good defense. You've just installed this offense that obviously Rodgers knows and everybody else is learning. You've got Hackett there then as the coordinator trying to flip game plans. Just such a difficult situation. I wonder maybe if the Jets can just find a way to stay alive. And I'm not suggesting any means that means they go into Dallas next week and win. But if they can find a way to stay alive and just pick up a couple of wins and things settle down, just with the talent they've got, I still think they've got a chance of breaking this playoff run. It's not the championship aspirations it was, 24 hours ago. But I think they've still got a chance of having a say, of getting into the playoff just because of the talent they've got. But it is a very, very difficult one.
And they did win last night,
and they did one
huge division win.
Huge win that when it could come to getting a wild card spot.
Absolutely, like it's a tiebreaker. It's a Bills loss. Like the defense played really well. Breece Hall looked great. I know he didn't have that breakaway speed, but man, if Gavin Wilson had just blocked rather than celebrated. Breece Hall was getting a touchdown. Dalvin Cook looked decent. Like he wasn't obviously breaking away, but he looked decent enough. There's plenty there for them to win close games, and a division win immediately is a huge positive.
Yeah. And I think after that interception as well, I did see that he did throw for 9 for 13 for 99 yards and touchdown. But it was just that interception. When you just look at it, it's like, what is he seeing there? He just threw it straight to the Bills defender, and you think, yeah, you can understand like he's just come in, but that kind of like awareness, it's worrying that it's just And it felt
there was a great moment on the Manning cast. I don't know if you guys caught the clip or not. It was about 9 minutes left in the third quarter. And at this point, Zach Wilson had thrown 12 passes, and Eli says to Peyton, how many more passes do you think he'll throw tonight? Would you get him to 25? He's already on 12. And Peyton Manning, no. It's like 3 more times the rest of the game. And at that, Zach Wilson takes a snap, immediately runs 20 yards backwards and to his right, just misses the referee, and flings the ball out of bounds so that he doesn't get, sacked for a huge loss. And you can just see Peyton Manning like, his face says everything, essentially. Like, I do not trust this guy as a quarterback. It reminded me of watching like a Johnny Manziel play.
Yeah.
It's just like immediately taking off and YOLOing it. And, as much as Aaron Rodgers should be good for Zach Wilson, that's as much as he should be good for him and help him. And I really think that Rodgers might have it in him now that he knows he's not playing. Zach Wilson isn't a threat to him. He can't play. I think he might be a better leader now that he's out of Green Bay in that sense. But Zach Wilson has to want to be better, and he has to want to learn, and he has to kind of, go out there and be what your coach is making you do on a given play. I think that's kind of why Kyle Shanahan wanted rid of Trey Lance as well. Like, he wants someone who goes out, sees a read, hits a read. He doesn't want a improviser and do it yourself off your back foot every time. If Zach Wilson can step back, see a read, hit it, and move on, or if not, throw the ball out of bounds, you just have to be a game manager. You just have not to lose it. And I think he just has to temper that. And obviously with that, he did come in a real tough situation last night. I don't really want to hold that against him. They won the game. He threw less interceptions than Josh Allen did.
He did. He was very lucky that second, the touchdown pass wasn't a second interception, because
it was a hell of a catch.
Yeah. To defend it, to flip from wide receiver to defender, to flip it up and then catch it as a wide receiver. Yeah. And, and look, it's not, offensive rookie of the year for nothing last year, but that was incredible. Kind of, quick thinking and being able to do that. And yeah, I mean, look, I think we've touched on it there. Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook are going to have a huge, huge role to play. If they didn't already in this Jets offense, I think so much more is going to be asked of them now, which is good if you've got either of them in fantasy football, because they'll both get a hell of a lot of touches. So yeah, interesting one from the Jets and whether they can stay alive. Yes, they won the game, absolutely, an unbelievable game. I see on Monday Night Football, classic walk-off moment, I think there, kind of that punt return for a touchdown. Let's talk about the effort the Bills punter in. I know kind of the game's lost at that point before he gets in to score the touchdown anyway, really. But yeah, I mean, not what you're wanting to see.
No, I mean, I think he put up less fight than Aaron Rodgers' Achilles. Like the game was lost because he's 15 yards out. He's probably less than 15 yards out. He's going to be a field goal at the very least. Game's over. I find that kind of pathetic and embarrassing. Like, I don't know how you'd walk into training today and face your teammate of like, oh yeah, I sort of whiffed my hand near him. It's like the game is on the line here. Like, smash through him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found it really bad.
Yeah. And the Bill, I don't know from your guys' perspective, but the Bills just seemed off last night. I think, defensively, I think, again, can't really judge it again. They're facing Zach Wilson, weren't they, for 95% of the game, but Bills just seemed off. Is that down to it just being week one and a bit rusty and blowing the cobweb off, or have the Bills got more problems than it seems?
Watching it was just, to me, it was all on Josh Allen. It felt like he was just making silly mistakes. Like that first interception, he had like so much room to just run and get a first down and then just move on, but he just thought he'd go for the big ball down the field, and the wide receiver was nowhere near it. It felt like he was sometimes just going for too big of a play, trying to make a splash play. And I think I saw something online. It's like Josh Allen just had to not be Zach Wilson, and they would have won.
Yeah,
but he was that level of quarterback. He was, he's probably the worst quarterback on the field, and that's with Zach Wilson there. And he had some good throws and some good periods. But they shouldn't be losing that game. It's
10 points up at half time to Zach Wilson.
I think it's all on Josh Allen. Just watching some of the, especially like the first interception, some of the other ones, it just felt like he was. I don't know. And then, I think the last 4 or 5 seasons he's got the most interceptions by quite a few now. So it is a worry going into that. He starts off like this, and he's always struggled against the Jets the last few years. But still, it's a bad loss. And like you said, it is only week 1, so they could easily bounce back and he could have a great season. But it's not, the way you want to start.
Yeah, it's 84 giveaways since he was drafted in 2018, which is most in the NFL for that span by a long way as well. There's just a bit where I don't understand. Yeah, I didn't understand the approach, and it does seem and Josh Allen was in the post game conference last night around that one's on me, making the same mistakes as I did against the Jets last year. He was forcing the game, and I have no idea why, because they were fully in control of that game. It felt like coming out at half into the second half, and it was just an odd one. I feel of just why is he feeling he needs to kind of push and put. There's times to put the foot down. There's times just to play sensible football, because they'd have found another couple of scores. It is an odd one, and I don't know. I think the winners out of this situation for me, I think, and we'll have a winners and losers conversation in a bit, but I think the Miami Dolphins are the winners in this situation. The Bills looked bad. Aaron Rodgers have gone down for the Jets. I think it's clear. I think this might clear a path for the Dolphins to go and win this division very early take week 1. And we'll come on to the Dolphins later. But yeah, it was just bad all round for the Bills, and I just didn't understand a lot of what they were trying to do at times.
I think there should be overarching kind of questions as well. Since Brian Daboll left, Josh Allen has looked, because it seemed like Josh Allen these first 2 years, he was inaccurate. He was very much scattershot and physical beast and kind of fun to watch. But like 2020, it was like, oh my goodness, this is the new Josh Allen. He's great. And he had 2 years of it with Brian Daboll calling it, and then Daboll left. And I mean, there's also, he had an elbow injury last year, but it just feels like Josh Allen has regressed a little in terms of decision making to being that scattershot quarterback again, and just, I'll do it myself, put it all on my shoulders. And even on some of his runs yesterday, it's like he got the first down and then he goes for 2 more yards and makes contact, and it's just not smart. Like, step out of bounds. Like, it feels like we've said it for years and years about Josh Allen now. Like, and all physical quarterbacks, like, you've got to learn to not get hit, because they add up so much. And I have real worries about Josh Allen this year. We're all in a fantasy football league together, and I took Lamar Jackson at the 3rd pick, and kind of got a bit of, not derision, but like shock about it, I guess, because Josh Allen went the next pick, and Josh Allen's unanimously top 3 quarterback in most, but like it just kind of scares me. Like, I think there's a downturn coming from him, I guess, and this opening week was really not positive.
Yeah, thanks, Brian. I took him.
Out of curiosity.
I took him after you.
Though, like Josh Allen, for a lot of people, was number 1 quarterback this year. Like, it was a unanimous top 3 quarterback. I just worry about him. I just think there's bad things coming, essentially. Like, last year worried me, but he was dealing with the elbow injury, and then yesterday it was just, like you say, it was just bad. Yeah, like the arm talent's there, but it just doesn't seem to be thinking it.
There's a lot. I think there is a lot of pressure now on this on the Buffalo Bills, which is not. If we go back 5 years, to think that that's a ridiculous thing. There's pressure on Buffalo Bills to win, but I think they're in a position here where they've had obviously an unbelievable team. They were the preseason favourites last year. Let's not forget about that. They were the preseason favourites to go win the Super Bowl last year. Didn't deliver. I think there's genuine pressure on this Buffalo team. Look, if they don't get this done this year, maybe the window goes to next year. What do they do? Because they started to lose everything else around it. And is this a thing where, look, they're going to go through another lull again while they carry that contract for Josh Allen? And what do you do? So I feel there's a real big win now pressure on Buffalo that there hasn't been. I think there was a lot of pressure last year, but maybe that was the first time there was that true, real expectation. And there's a bit of a hangover from that. And if they don't win now, I think there's a chance the Bills are going to struggle for a while. But look, it might just be week 1 that they've just had a bad game, and look, they go out next week. They kind of, it works out nice. They're at home to the Raiders next week. There's a chance to kind of just go smash the Raiders into the ground and get right and get things moving there for the Bills. Cool. That was Monday Night Football. Let's go back to Thursday and the kickoff game. And the Detroit Lions went into Kansas and beat the champs, beat the Chiefs 21-20. First question I've got to ask you guys about this one is, at the end of the game, Mike Tirico said that there was an asterisk on this Lions win in Kansas against the Chiefs because Travis Kelce missed the game and Chris Jones was still holding out. First of all, is Mike Tirico right in what he's saying? Should there be an asterisk against that win?
There's no such thing as an asterisk win. Every team has injuries. What's the point of, So every Jets loss from now on is going to have an asterisk saying the other team only won because Rodgers is out.
It's an absolute,
yeah,
absolute nonsense. Yeah, couldn't agree more. And, the Lions don't have Jameson Williams either. Their second pass catcher. It's the weirdest thing you can say.
It was an odd thing to say at the end, wasn't it? It just felt just to kind of undermine what the Lions had just been done. Yeah,
give the Lions a fucking bone, Jesus.
Yeah, I mean, just on that note, Kelce was injured. Sounds like he's going to be back for week 2. Chris Jones has ended his holdout. He signed a contract yesterday, I think it was.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
What day were we on? Tuesday, yesterday. But how big of an impact? What were they? Were missing Kelce and Jones? Do you think for the Chiefs in that performance?
I think Kelce was a bigger miss. I think the actual Kansas Chiefs defense actually had a good game because I think they only gave 14 points altogether. Obviously, the other 7 being an interception. So I think, you're obviously going to miss Chris Jones because he is, probably top 3 defensive tackle, and you're missing Kelce, who's probably is the best tight end and probably in the top 3 best skill position in the league. So you are going to miss that. And I think, we all saw how terrible Tony was, and he probably cost them the game. But I think, because I think with the result, I definitely think Kansas City lost the game rather than Detroit actually beat the Chiefs. I feel like the Chiefs gave it away on a number of situations, especially like obviously the Tony drop when he was straight in his hand, and the other drop when they were going for the field goal to win it, when you just expected Mahomes to go down the field and wrap it up, and he just drops that one. I think they were in the 30 or 40 yard line. It was a simple catch. So it's I think the Kelce was a bigger miss, but he's still got to give it to the Lions for winning it. And I think they've come out a big winner as well, just because now everyone else in the NFC North have to play the Chiefs at some point, who should have Chris Jones, should have Kelce back, and are probably licking the wounds from this week 1 loss.
Yeah, I think there'll be an answer back from the Chiefs, won't they? Certainly. Yeah, I think you're right, Tony. Just what a nightmare. Oh, I mean, just balls you can't drop. You just cannot. And then for one to cost you 7 points in Brian Branch that took that all the way back to the house, and probably at a key time in the game, kind of. I don't know. It was weird, and I agree with you, Joe. I think it was more the Chiefs. I thought the Lions did play well, but I do definitely think it was the Chiefs who kind of gave that game away. And there's just a bit there, isn't there? Around is there that vulnerability in the Chiefs where look at. If players, if teams do miss their, some of their big players, but you're missing 2 players there, injuries happen, things like that. We've seen them in the past find ways to win games still, missing key. But I just never really got the faith that was going to be the case on Thursday throughout the game.
I think there's a kind of caveat as well of people do miss players for injury, but you take out your best non-quarterback on offense and your best defensive player by a long way. And that's not just missing players for injury, that's missing very, very important players for injury. And Travis Kelce was, and again, this happened throughout the season, but that was very late notice as well, where there was very little time to prepare for it. Kadarius Toney, I think, hadn't realised clearly that he was meant to be playing on offense. But I mean, if they lose Kelce and Jones again for a noticeable period of the season, they probably will really struggle this season because their wide receivers aren't wide receiver ones. They're all, utility weapons who can contribute. None of them should be getting, 150 targets in a season. It's not going to end well. Even with Patrick Mahomes, it's not going to end well. And as much as the Lions maybe didn't go out and win the game, I was delighted to see them win the game, though. I think they handled it as well as they could do. Mm-hmm. The line got better throughout the second half, and I know there was some fantasy frustration about Jahmyr Gibbs not having the role people want him to have. Give David Montgomery his due and go and play bully ball and go and push the Chiefs defense around when there's no Chris Jones there to stop you. I loved it. I loved Dan Campbell's clear call on the punt early on.
Yeah.
It was very, very, very Detroit victory. And I was delighted. I thought it was a perfect introduction back into football.
So I thought the two key moments in the games were obviously the Tony drop that ends up being interception. And then, Dan Campbell not only going for it, but that turning into points as well. Yeah. To go for it, the second drive of the year, inside your own 20, against the Chiefs, everything says you just punt that ball away and try and play defense. And went for it. I think it was 4th and 4, wasn't it? So it was, and it paid off, turned into points. I think it was the touchdown pass to Amon-Ra St. Brown. And the Lions were on the way. I thought probably for the highlight for the Lions was the impact that the rookies had. Yes, we didn't see a lot of Gibbs. I think he had 9 touches. Frustratingly, because I think I had a couple of prop bets on Gibbs that I didn't really think were going to be a problem. He had 9 touches, but showed, I think he went on the ground. I think he was just shot 7 yards a clip. A couple of receptions as well. Ran strong. I think Dan Campbell said we're going to see a lot more of him, so maybe we want to stick with Gibbs. Campbell, the linebacker, he had one key pass breakup as well. But I thought he had a really, really good game. Branch has got the interception return for a touchdown, so they all contributed. And I think we sat here, and I certainly did. I'm pretty sure you guys did as well. Back in April, going, what the hell are the Lions doing with this draft?
Yeah,
and a lot of those guys, maybe not so much Branch, but a lot of the guys made some real key contributions that led to that win last night. So, really good to see the Lions up and running. I like that. Nice to see that upset in week 1. Champs getting beat. But how did you think? Kind of, Joe. I mean, Joe, what was your take on the Lions?
Yeah, but like I said, I think they played a solid game out. I still think like Goff and the offense need to do a bit more next few games. I think it is a worry that, especially with Williamson being out, that they've only got one true great wide receiver, and if the other team's defense are going to cover him most of the game, they need someone else to actually step up and to actually. So I thought the tight end had a few decent catches and had a good game. But I just think, and like I said, defense was good, but I think Goff's got to step up and be a little bit better if they are going to make a run for the playoffs and for the Super Bowl, because, they have got a chance within the NFC. It's not like there's a lot of great teams in there, but I think he's got to step up and elevate his game. But, you can't really complain with winning week 1, especially against the Chiefs. And like I said, it's they've got to play all the rest of the NFC North now, so it's possibly one up against all them.
Yeah, Laporta looked good. I agree. The tight end, I thought he looked good, and I think while you've got the Williams being out, a name that I didn't think I was going to be talking about again, Josh Reynolds.
Right.
I think he caught. I think he was targeted 7 times, caught 4 of them for 80 yards. He could be the one that gets leaned on that a little bit more. If Amon-Ra St. Brown, as you'd expect, gets a lot of the attention from defenses. And look, a bit of just the way the game flowed. I don't know. That Lions was the 4th ranked offense last year. They were electric at times last year, very high scoring and a lot of shootouts. And it wouldn't surprise me if Dan Campbell just wants to temper that a little bit around, not getting into those shootout games. But ultimately they went with a plan and it worked. It paid off for them. Yes, they got some assists from the Chiefs, absolutely. But ultimately they've come out with a win and I want to know to start the season.
What did you think of the 4th and 25? Was it 4th and 25?
Yeah.
At the end, with
it was 4th and 20. Then they got, I think, delay a game.
Yeah,
it's 4th and 25.
Do you think you should have gone for it or punted it and tried to get the because they had the 3 times out left, but obviously you had been wasting them for.
I think it's easy when it fails to judge it really harshly.
Mm.
But there's almost a thing of you have Patrick Mahomes, and by that stage, kind of like what I alluded to earlier, I felt like the Lions were just bullying them up front, and I don't know if you were stopping them.
Mm-hmm.
You maybe would have done, and it might have worked out better. But I always find it hard to criticize when you've got Patrick Mahomes kind of going for it on anything really. I would rather bet on Patrick Mahomes completing 4th and 25, even with that band of receivers and stopping the Lions' all line, which you haven't really been doing too well, especially when they know they're just in clock eating. Certainly didn't work out, so can't say it was a perfect process, but I always find it hard to criticize when it's the option is give the ball, put it in Patrick Mahomes' hands rather than someone else's.
Yeah, we'll see. The Chiefs, I've got a tough game week 2. They play Jacksonville Jaguars, if I can get that out, who got a good win to start the season. It's not an easy one for the Chiefs. They've got a tough start to this, tough start to the year. So I don't know, maybe we could be sat here kind of 5-6 weeks in when the the Chiefs have 2 or 3 losses. That's to come. We'll move on from the defending champs to what everyone is expecting to be another contender. And Joe, will let you take the floor on this one. Your San Francisco 49ers went into Pittsburgh and just beat the crap out of the Pittsburgh Steelers, 30-7. I'll start off with this. Don't know, Joe, if you agree with this, but perfect Purdy picks apart Pittsburgh with precision.
There you go. All the P's. Yeah, it was a great game. My prediction was the opposite. I think I chose the Steelers just because.
Yeah, you picked the Steelers plus 2.5.
Yeah, it's just because the 49ers always start off slow and they always have just not great starts. They always start 3 and 4, and I thought it could be one of them kind of games. But as soon as the game started, Pittsburgh, odd decision, they won the toss and received the ball, which I always find not many teams do, and they just got, like you said, bullied. They went 3 and out straight away, and yeah, Brock Purdy just picked them apart. I thought. I wouldn't say it was faultless because he had 2 fumbles, but you probably could blame that on the offensive line a bit. But I think it's proving more and more people wrong. It's when he's in the pocket and there is some pressure there, how he just escapes and just fires a ball to someone wide open. That it's a really good look, and I think it's a really strong start. Like I said, they don't normally start off strong, so if they can carry on this way, then they are probably the clear favorite to possibly get the number 1 pick in the NFC because he was. All-round performance, defense, offense, you can't really complain. And even Moody as well had a perfect game as well, which people were worried about with the preseason. So already a great 3rd-round pick for the kicker. So that was a great start for everyone.
Yeah, and they were just really strong. They just bullied the Steelers. I thought it was going to be a lot closer. I felt San Francisco were going to go in and win that game. But yeah, I just expected more from Pittsburgh, and we'll get into that. But yeah, I think Purdy's just kind of picked up from where he left off. Mm-hmm. He's had that obviously UCL surgery. They obviously hurt in the NFC Championship game. But yeah, he just looked in full command of the offense. I think that particularly that second touchdown to Brandon Ayuk is a perfect throw. You just can't defend that. Patrick Peterson was covering Ayuk, and I just don't think there's any way on earth you could defend that. It was perfect coverage, and Purdy just beat it with a perfect pass, and there was just no way on earth that was being defended. So yeah, real impressed with San Francisco, full stop. I think you're seeing again the benefits of, he already had a great 10 games or whatever it was last year with them, but McCaffrey having a full off season, and he just looked absolutely electric. Great value getting him 11th pick in the 1st round, by the way, in our fantasy football draft.
I would say Ayuk looked really good as well. He was one of the best players on the field, and if he can go up the level and become a wide receiver 1, then you've possibly got 2 wide receiver 1s, a great tight end who has a great connection with the quarterback, and then one of the best 2 running backs. You can't really ask for much more than that. I'm a bit worried about the line, especially the right hand side wasn't the greatest. I know they're going up against TJ Watt, and he got a few big hits on Purdy a few times with Colton McKevitz is his 1st year actually starting at right tackle. So that's a bit worrying, is when they're playing a teams like Dallas, for example, that they need to show up that. But other than that, can't win. I was surprised how much McCaffrey touched the ball, though. I thought they would use Mitchell a bit more later in the game when they had it wrapped up. So I do wonder, as the year goes on, they might reduce in his amount of touches, but can't really complain.
We can absolutely keep feeding that ball to CMC. Let's move on to the Steelers. We just lost Joe. Joe was dropping out a second there, but he will be back. Let's move on to the Steelers then, Byron. I think the only kind of bright spot, for me, the only bright spot was TJ Watt. He looked in kind of mid-season form already. 3 sacks, forced fumble, I think, as well, or 2 forced fumbles. of Purdy. Yeah, he just looks like the beast that we know he is.
Yeah, slim place for positives for Pittsburgh, but yeah, TJ Watt being TJ Watt is one of them. Your picture is frozen, by the way, Paul. I don't know if that's an issue for you if you're recording video, but yeah, nothing really positive take away from Pittsburgh. Deontay Johnson's going to be out a few weeks now as well with I believe it's a hamstring injury. The offense still looks appalling under Matt Canada. Yeah, I struggle to try and find anything good to say for Pittsburgh, truthfully. And they have a fun Monday night coming up. They host the Browns, who fresh off whooping the Bengals. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it's tough in Pittsburgh, and that crowd did not seem particularly patient on Sunday afternoon.
No, and one of my just Niners notes there, Joe was talking about Brandon Ayuk. I absolutely loved, he gets his 2 receiving touchdowns, and then from McCaffrey to free him, I don't know who the Pittsburgh defender was, but he just lays him on his back with a huge block. And it's like, man, if you get, and it's always important in a Shanahan scheme for your receivers to be blockers, but there's very few things I love more than receivers running downfield and putting a big old block to free somebody up. And, again, we'll be covering in a little bit. There's someone who would not do that for his teammates, and it's been highly noted on Twitter. But yeah, Brandon Ayuk, I just loved it. He already had his 2 receiving touchdowns, but no sign of him taking a day off. And, you think back to, was it the beginning of last year or the year before maybe, in fact, where he was kind of in the Shanahan doghouse. I think it was 2 years ago. And, Juwan Jennings was getting snaps ahead of him and everyone was losing their mind. And now you look at Ayuk, catching his 2 receiving touchdowns. And like I said, just that big block to free up McCaffrey for his touchdown was, it's some kind of things that make my heart sing watching football. Like just a real team player just buying in and smashing fuck out of somebody. It was great.
Good stuff. Yeah, we were talking to you. Yeah, we've been, of course, singing the 49ers praises, Joe, while you've been away. We touched on the Steelers a little bit as well around kind of TJ Watt's the only real highlight. Good start, though. 3 sacks, couple of forced fumbles for a potential TJ Watt Defensive Player of the Year. Yeah,
I do worry, though, because Cam Hayward's out for a few weeks as well, so that's another big player on the defensive line out. So, yeah, TJ was great. Like I said, I think he was going against the weakest side of the 49ers offensive line, but he's definitely going to be in the shout with 3 sacks, and I think he's going to continue all year. So, did a great year.
Pending he can stay fit. Byron, you alluded to a particular wide receiver not potentially being as invested as Brandon Ayuk, and we'll move on to that game now. We'll start having a look at a couple of the late games, and we'll move to the NFC North, where the Green Bay Packers went and demolished the Chicago Bears and really pissed on that bonfire. Yeah, it really did a job on him. 38-20, the Packers went into Soldier Field and won. Yeah, Byron, do you want to start with Chase Claypool?
Yeah, Chase do fucking nothing. There's videos on the internet of I didn't watch this game in real time live, but catching up on it, and Chase Claypool is just half-arsing his way through his career, basically. He's got such physical tools, and he's just not he refuses to put blocks on. Like, it's just kind of, it looks like the Bills punter. He's just like stands there, puts his arms near them, and that's kind of his entire effort level. It's week 1. I find it shocking. Like, for all the, saying not many positives for Pittsburgh, I mean, he managed to fleece a second-round pick out of the Bears for Chase Claypool. Maybe they're still celebrating that, but man, it was woeful. The entire Bears performance was pretty bad, though. Like, we talked about feeling bad for the Jets fans earlier. The Bears have kind of like had all summer of like, hey, we got a good deal done with the Panthers. We didn't need the first round pick because we've got a quarterback, and now it's 1 week in, and you're like, ooh, do you have a quarterback? Do you have a coach? Is your GM someone you're trusting at the wheel at this point? And again, it's 1 week. But it doesn't really look like anything's really changed in Chicago. DJ Moore got 2 targets, I believe. Mm-hmm. I'm really concerned for Chicago. I didn't think they were making the playoffs this year, but I had them with a good record. I think I had them 8-9, 9-8 maybe. And Green Bay looked good, but Chicago looked really bad. I can't really think of a positive. Rashawn Johnson looked pretty good in the second half. Coming in as a, garbage time running back as a rookie, looked pretty good. But otherwise, it's really hard to find a positive for Chicago other than they have 2 first-round picks next year, and that's really depressing in week 1.
Yeah, it is. It's so they just looked a mess, and yeah, I've got them winning the division, or had them winning the division. I certainly don't think that's going to be the case anymore. But yeah, I was just fully expecting that they would hit all this momentum that they built in the off season. Having had, I think of even still look at one game in, right, but still, I think a decent off season, a really good off season with what they managed to achieve, and then what they put out on the field on Sunday was just absolutely putrid. The Packers, on the other hand, I think, again, a lot of that is down to the Bears being bad, but Jordan Love, I think he looked pretty good.
Agree.
Yeah, I think he looked, he had a decent game. And again, he's going to have some much sterner tests, but, I think he went for 245 and 3 touchdowns, just looked pretty solid. There might have been some concern in Aaron Jones. He obviously went on a lengthy touchdown catch and looked like he tweaked a hamstring. But yeah, I thought the Packers looked pretty solid. I thought defensively they looked really good as well. And they've got enough talent loaded on that defense now from the last few drafts. But yeah, I think very, very positive for Green Bay. And yeah, probably the most complete performance of the NFC North teams.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, again, it feels a little harsh to compare Detroit's performance versus Kansas City to, Green Bay versus Chicago, when one team was picking 31 in the draft and one team was picking 1.
We've only got 1 week, Byron. Come on, we have to compare some things.
Well, I mean, I'm just going to, you mentioned who you had Chicago winning the division. I remember getting a bit of derision a week or 10 days ago when I picked the Green Bay to win the division at 4-1. And early days, I'm feeling a little bit better about that one.
Yeah, because I had the Bears not doing. I think I had them finishing bottom and not doing much better, just because the coach is not looking anything special. I just think that it's tricky when you have a defense that bad. You got rid of your best player to then suddenly be like, well, we're going to be a great defense straight away. I think it's going to take them time. I think I saw that a few of the new players had a few decent plays, but they didn't get to the quarterback that much compared to like the Packers. I think I saw of like around 50% of Fields just dropped back. It was pressured, so obviously the line's not being sorted, and another fumble, another interception. It's not a great start, but it's it's the same old as any team with a bad offensive line. You're not going to do much, and it just shows that there's not a lot of great tackles out there for teams just suddenly to be like, oh, we fixed it, we're going to have a great year. It's it's unfortunate, but the Packers started off well, and like I said, it's against the Bears, so I'll be curious like where they're going next few weeks and how Jordan Love does. But certainly a positive start, and Green Bay Packers going to carry on this run of always having a top quality quarterback. It's not fair, is it? Certain teams, but
well, the Jordan Love era in Green Bay is going better than the Rodgers era in New York. So
I think they won that trade.
Good stuff. We'll leave the Bears and Packers there. Let's move on to probably, I think, what was the game of the week? Game of the weekend. Miami Dolphins going into LA and playing the Chargers. The Dolphins came out on the right side of this shootout, 36-34. And so Tyreek Hill's going to get 3,600 receiving yards.
And 34 touchdowns?
34 touchdowns, yeah.
Not bad. You think the Chiefs could maybe use someone like that? What a performance for Tyreek Hill. Like, Justin Jefferson might be the best wide receiver in the NFL, but I don't think there's a more destructive skill player than Tyreek Hill.
It's just a cheat code, isn't it?
Yeah, if you can scheme him open, and other than Kyle Shanahan, I'm not sure I trust a play caller more than Mike McDaniel. When he up until Tua got injured last year, the Dolphins were incredible. The start this year, incredible. Give the man weapons and give him time to plan. McDaniels is one hell of a head coach.
Tyreek Hill went for, so it was 11 grabs off 15 targets for 215 yards and 2 touchdowns.
It felt so easy watching it, though. It's just like, Tua just steps up, throws it down. Yeah. Oh, he's just, just Tyreek Hill's there to make a catch. And there was some great throws. He was dropping some in some buckets. He was doing some amazing throws too. And it's just disappointing from the Chargers' point of view in terms of like their defense. It's it's Brandon Staley. It's supposed to be his side of the ball, and think I was just like looking into. I think they only punted once, the Dolphins, and the other 2 times they didn't score was a fumble at the it wasn't too far out from the Chargers, and then just an interception, and they were on the Chargers 27 as well. So it felt like they only stopped them once properly all game, and that defense was supposed to be a game changer for them to possibly win the AFC West. And with the Chiefs losing the first game, you thought, oh, this is an opportunity for them to get one up, get a good start to the year, beat a good team, and the Chargers are going to charge. It feels like, and especially did you see the play at the end of the first half? I don't know what
J.C. Jackson.
Yeah, what he was doing there, because that's 3 points and lost by 2, and
yeah, that's inexplicable, isn't it? That.
Well, I was going to highlight it. It's inexplicable for the Chargers, but I think that's such a huge positive for Miami and Mike McDaniel again. He's like, the Chargers kicked a field goal to go up with 15 seconds left before halftime. And, I would dare say 28 out of 32 coaches are like, okay, kneel on the ball, start the second half. McDaniel's like, no, we're going to sling the ball downfield and see what we get. And like you said, they get a field goal and they win by 2 points.
It was 9 seconds they had left and they managed to do it.
Yeah, I'm giving them too much credit for 40. Yeah. Maybe even more than 28, then maybe 30, 31 coaches are saying that's half time. Cool. Yeah. Whereas you go out, sling a ball down the field and see if J.C. Jackson is dumb enough to bring somebody down. And
he was.
Yeah, exactly. If you don't buy a ticket, you don't win the lottery. So I was like this, the first few weeks of last season as well, and I'll do it all as long as it's relevant-ish. But I'll always sing Mike McDaniel's praise. I think he's such a good head coach. I think he pushes to win so much. Again, we're saying there, the Chiefs kind of lost the game rather than the Lions won it. I think when the Dolphins win the game. It's if you can give him a fully fit to it all season. I know, again, we say injuries matter, et cetera, but I kind of struggle to see where you slow the Dolphins down.
And ultimately, the stuff with Tua comes from not protecting him. They didn't give up a sack on Sunday to the Chargers, and ultimately that's how you're going to make sure he doesn't get injured. Whether he can do a judo roll or whatever. Ultimately, if he doesn't get hit, he's not going to get hurt. And I think that's what they did a really, really good job with on Sunday. Yeah, the Chargers giving up 466 passing yards. That's where I think the Chargers are still probably going to be a pretty decent team. But that's worrying. And how many shootouts, you can keep getting into shootouts like that against teams that are loaded in the AFC like that, then I just think it's a very dangerous game to play.
And like you said, Byron, I think it is the head coach matters, because you look at, the Chargers were up by 1 and they were 4th and 5th on the Miami 7. Is that something, if you go for it, you more or less, you've won the game, but going for the field goal, you've let Miami, and it's not like you've been stopping Miami, your defense has been amazing, and it's been stopping touchdowns. So you take the easy field goal.
And I think Staley's got worse for that. I think in his first year, he was pretty aggressive.
Yeah.
And he was kind of lauded for it. And then one or two of the decisions go against you. And it's coaches kind of get scared. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the worst traits in a coach. You can be a good player call, you can be but you've got to have a pair of onions essentially. You've got to be willing to go for these plays.
And it's judging the game, isn't it? If you've got the Jets defense or something like that, yeah, fair enough. I understand. Go for the field goal. You're probably going to get a stop. You've been doing it all game. But when the other team has literally just been going up and down and doing whatever they want, and like I said, they only punted once. Yeah. Are you really going to stop it? And you're not going to leave yourself with much time at the end. And you've got Herbert. That's a big thing.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Your best attribute on your team is Justin Herbert,
and you've got massive wide receivers.
Yeah. Your all line's playing well. I find it so frustrating because, the keys are there for a good team, and it's just held back.
It's that crazy thing. It's there's certain, like you said, it's what happened with the Jets. It just feels very Jetsy, and this just feels very Charger. And it's just how does this happen every year? You think it's going to be different. It's got to be different, but it just, it sticks to certain teams, and it just always happens to the same ones for some reason.
It's not going to be any different. Whether it's missing out on the playoffs or getting beaten a wild card round, the Chargers season will end in some sort of farcical loss.
And they'll keep the head coach, and we'll come back next year and do it all again.
Well, you've got potentially, we've talked about in our build-up, I think potentially you've got Kellen Moore as a head coach in waiting there. So we'll see what happens with the Chargers. But yeah, all good from the Dolphins. Certainly, I think it's one of the big winners for the week. Let's move on to Sunday Night Football. And Byron, as a fellow Cowboys fan, you can lead the way on this one. The Cowboys absolutely trounced the Giants at MetLife, 40-0. Yeah, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, fought incredible. Just absolute destructive, dominant. I mean, that's one of the most comprehensive, dominant Cowboys performances I've ever seen. It was completely one-sided. It was game over by halftime. Giants did not look interested, weren't competing. They were just bullied. They were bullied off the field. They were not competitive any phases, and it was incredible. I've been kind of down on New York coming into the season and didn't think they were going to repeat last year, and I didn't think they were making the playoffs, but man, I didn't think they were going to just white flag it after a quarter of football.
Yeah, I feel it's a combo of those two things. So I do think there was the lack of effort from the Giants. The Giants just did kind of give up on it as well. I think there was also got a bit of luck. I think everything that could have gone wrong did go wrong for them. But it was so interesting because that first drive, the Giants actually moving the ball pretty well. And running it as they do.
I don't want to be the old Mike Tyson cliche, but everyone's got a plan until you get punched in the face. And with Giants, it felt like, they gave up one big punch to the face and, that would 10 count. It would just.
And I think it was their own making as well, because they got to I think they were in the red zone inside the 15, 3rd and 2. False start makes it 3rd and 7. The snap going over Daniel Jones's head or whatever happened with it. And then all of a sudden you're going from actually getting a new set of downs, 1st and goal, to you're kicking a 48-yard field goal in a monsoon. And then it just spiraled from there. Obviously, you're not going to block many kicks, are you? But, Dallas took advantage of what they did, and then they just absolutely kept up the pressure, didn't they? They did not take the foot off the throat. They absolutely dog walked the New York Giants. Yeah, it was great to see.
And wasn't it like in the field goal as well? I think Andrew Thomas got injured during that blocked field goal. So, their best offensive lineman, who was supposed to be he had a great year last year to try and block Parsons to go down injured or to be compromised against that pass rush. He was basically over at that point, and especially when Barkley. I feel sorry for Jones for that to be an interception. I don't think that was never. I think that was a catch and a fumble, but
yeah.
But yeah, I think from then that was game. But when that happened, it was okay, that's it. It's not coming back from this. But it'll be interesting next week because the Giants have got the Cardinals.
Yeah,
it already feels like a must-win game for the Giants there. If they lose to the Cardinals, that's season. That's unlucky New York. You've got two teams with a terrible start. Yeah.
Paul mentioned earlier, the Bills welcome the Raiders next week, and Giants Cardinals. It's all three New York teams might well be in a bit of a bind. Imagine if the Raiders go and beat Buffalo.
Yeah.
What would happen? If the Cardinals beat the Giants and the Jets, it almost doesn't feel like it matters really what their results are. Unless they somehow beat the Cowboys. But man, it's such a downer for New York right now.
Yeah,
and
I mean,
I'd love to see the Cardinals, even if they just do what they did to the Commanders. Even they don't even necessarily need to win the game. But I mean, if they win the game, incredible. But if they just run New York close, I think the press is going to be wild next week. I don't know what the papers were like yesterday. I think there might have been a little help by yesterday was the anniversary of 9/11, and I don't know what the media was like in regards to being overly dramatic, perhaps with sports things. But a 40-0 blowout is very rough, and I think if New York don't get there going soon, Brian Daboll might be smelling a little bit of pressure, even though they had a great year last year. New York media doesn't care. They are intense, and the pressure will be back on.
Yeah, I think he will have some time, Daboll. He'll have, I don't think they'll make any rash decisions until I don't think he'll go this year. But yeah, it is a rough one. So has somebody got the list to hand of all the things that happened to the Giants in that one game that has never happened to a team over the course of a season?
Yes, I've got it here. So I think, lost the game by 40 or more points, lost the sack battle by 7 or more, lost the turnover battle by 3 or more, had a field goal blocked in return for a touchdown, and thrown a pick six that happened with all in one game. It's
so never happens. All those things have never happened to a team over the course of a season. All happened in 60 minutes of football to the New York Giants on Sunday, and that's where I think maybe it just goes to show the extent of look. They were bad. that Dallas defense is legit. Like, we knew it was good. We knew it was very good. I didn't think it was this good. And again, that might temper in terms of because of how bad the Giants were, but they were just relentless, absolutely relentless. And yeah, just kind of every bad bounce, every bounce just went Dallas's way.
Yeah, at least you got everything out of the way in the first game. You know what I mean?
It can only get better.
Yeah. And yeah, for the Cowboys, that defense just looked any team who's like third and long against Dallas is like, good luck. You might as well just punt it from then on because they're just gonna, pin the ears back and just go after the quarterback. So
my thought yesterday, McKee Becton on third down next. I cannot wait.
I think they're gonna run it. Just run every third down to keep Wilson fit.
I think you might be being a little pessimistic then. Just run it.
Yep.
Then my third down, just run it every down. The quarterback's going to be Michael Carter. It's going to be triple wishbone in the back with Breece Hall and Israel Akabid and Dalvin Cook. They're all going to be back there. There's going to be no quarterback. Garrett Wills can just stand out on the sideline and try and block if they throw an interception.
Yeah, I mean, when you look on that Cowboys defense, look, we are obviously Micah Parsons has had an incredible 2 years. Everybody contributed on Sunday, absolutely. And whether that was in tackle for losses, in interceptions, everybody got involved. Deron Bland obviously got the interception return for a touchdown. He had such a good rookie season last year. You got what you expected from Parsons. Gilmore got an interception. Diggs was making plays. He forced a fumble.
Yep.
Dorrance Armstrong got 2 sacks. DeMarcus Lawrence got a sack. Chauncey Golston got a sack. Somebody else got 2 sacks. I can't remember who it was. Was it? Osa, yeah, absolutely. Everybody contributed. It was it's scary. And Dallas took starters out in the fourth quarter, and even still, then that defense was still.
That was my one frustration I was going to touch on, and it applies to the betting. Get Juice Vaughn a fucking touchdown. Come on. You could have took Tony Pollard out in the first quarter.
Yeah, I was disappointed with it. More Juice, yeah. I also
was watching for the second half. Like, come on, just get little Juice's touchdown.
As well in that defense as well. I'm not sure if he snapped out, but we didn't really see Mazzie Smith too much either. Which is interesting to see. You've still got him to kind of rotate into that defensive front as well. First round pick out of Michigan. So, yeah, and I think now all of a sudden they've got the opportunity to tee off next week against the New York Jets as well. Mm-hmm. Probably some questions that haven't been answered. We didn't really get to see the offense, really, just given the way the game went and short fields and the returns. So, yeah, interesting to kind of see how that goes. And again, what might be the case next week against the Jets.
As much trolling as we're doing of the Jets offense and offensive line potentially, the Jets defense is top 3. Yeah. So it's going to be a real challenge for Dallas's offense. It's not going to be a case of they're going to walk in there and win 40-0. I think they should be hugely favored because of the overall matchup. But it's going to be tough sledding against the Jets defense. Always is.
Yeah, we shall see. But yeah, cracking start for Dallas Cowboys, winning 40-0. I think it's the biggest road shutout Dallas have ever had, I believe, if I heard right in the post-game press conference.
I think I read today it's the biggest shutout victory period, but I might be wrong.
Interesting. Cool. Good stuff. Those are the games that we focused on. Let's move on and we'll touch on the other ones. Let's move on to our picks and see how we did. Joe, I noticed you've not put a slide together showing how good my betting record was, by the way, for the week.
I do apologise. You're asking me to do it 10 minutes before the podcast. So
that's usually when we're recording. Well, let's look at these picks then, and then I'll scream about record. So let's start with our competition then, I guess. So we've settled on a name. The good teams win, great teams cover. FourFold challenge. Yeah, I mean it could have been better. I agree.
That's fine.
It's clear. It's clear, yeah. So if you're listening for the first time, we pick a favourite, an underdog, an under and an over each week over the course of the season, and we have a winner at the end. We also have a guest that join us. So let's start with Bobby G. Bobby G, big Cleveland fan, joined us and was our first guest picker. Bobby didn't have the best of weeks. He went 1-3, so he picked his Chiefs as his favourite. His over was the Vikings, Bucks, and his under was the Packers, Bears. That he missed out on. He cashed in though and got his Cleveland Browns as 2.5-point underdogs to beat the Bengals. Let's just touch on that game. I mean, the Bengals looked undercut. So I think it was a worry going in that obviously Burrow had been injured and not really been involved too much in training camp and didn't play in preseason. And that's kind of what we saw really on Sunday.
Yeah, and one of them weather games as well, where it's a bit like, the 49ers Chicago game last year, where can you take much out of it? But the Browns did look good though on defense. I think that's probably the main thing what's come out of that. I think both quarterbacks did struggle, and I think just the Browns would just look better defensively all around, especially their front looked a scary proposition, and how the other AFC North teams looked, They could be one of the favourites, like the favourite to win that now with, how the other teams look.
Yeah.
Cool. We'll jump to me. I went 2-2. So I cashed the Eagles -4 against the Patriots. In the end, it was very nervy. Again, that looked like it was going to be very similar to how the Cowboys game went early on. The Eagles were 16 up in no time, really, against the Patriots. Patriots hung on in there. Do we think the Patriots might be a little bit frisky? Will the Patriots be a little bit better than we might have given them credit for?
Potentially. The defense was solid. I think they look better on offense than anticipated. Hunter Henry had a good game. Keyshawn Boutte, I think he was a 6th-round rookie. He was great at LSU in 2021, I believe. Just trying to keep track of my years here. He had 2 catches that were he didn't get his second foot down. That would have been real big plays. I still think they're going to struggle generally over the season, but it was much more positive than I anticipated, I must be honest. I think Mac Jones looked pretty good. Again, he's never going to be game-changing quarterback, but I think he looked pretty good, to be fair to him. They stood in there and, they didn't capitulate like, the Giants did. And, more positives than negative, I think, for New England.
Yeah, it's another team with a good defense, maybe like top 10. So, they're always going to be in them kind of games, I think, going forward.
Yeah, it felt like as well that the Eagles kind of slept through the game a bit, having got the lead early. Mm-hmm. You kind of look how it kind of went. Philadelphia, I know we just talked about today. Yes, the Patriots will have, and do have a good defense, but don't know, like they just really seem to struggle. The Eagles, once kind of the Patriots settled down, they really just struggled to move the ball. I mean. No other running back, obviously, you run Hurts, but Gainwell got 14 carries. Boston Scott and DeAndre Swift got a carry each, and that was kind of it. From an Eagles perspective.
Sirianni came out and said, I never want to see DeAndre Swift getting 2 touches a game. It's like, well, you are the head coach, Nick, here. Like, they didn't take you out of the game.
Yeah.
I always find those kind of things real odd coming from head coaches at the end of the game.
Yeah. Rashad Penny was a healthy scratch, right, as well.
Yeah, I find that real surprising. I think he's a real good fit in their system. They clearly disagree, I guess, but I think in terms of just being a pure runner, I don't think there's that many better in the NFL when he's fit, but maybe when they have a fully fit room, he's the odd man out because he doesn't do as much passing or receiving work. Mm-hmm. I'm not too sure, but I was surprised to see him as a healthy scratch, certainly. I think he's a real talented back when he's fit and healthy.
Yeah, we'll talk. Obviously, we'll preview Thursday Night Football before the end of the show. The Eagles play the Vikings, so we'll see if they can get right and put in a more complete performance. And then I also got in Bucks Vikings. Let's talk about that. So the Bucks were 6-point underdogs. Didn't need it. Went and won the game outright. Hired them as the under 45.5, which hit. But Baker going on the road to Minnesota. Yeah, what did we make of that one?
It's an odd week 1 game, I kind of think. I mean, the issues I was concerned. I mean, I had the Vikings bottom of their division as prediction, and mainly all on defense. Kirk Cousins lost 2 fumbles, which I think is a bit of a fluke week 1 kind of thing. That he's not going to lose 2 fumbles every week, certainly on botched exchanges. I think Minnesota look kind of okay, not great. Tampa, I don't think are winning that game a lot of the times, but they did this week. So, I mean, good for them, but I'm certainly not optimistic about Tampa's future.
Yeah, I did think it's kind of game where Vikings should have been up by quite a bit more by halftime because it felt like you had a few fumbles, interceptions, and then you let a team stick around with some of the talent they've got. Because Baker wasn't amazing. Like the first few possessions wasn't looking great, but he managed to put 2 drives together and get the points. And but when you don't put the points on the board, when you're on top, then that's the kind of thing what happens. And it's like Brian said, it's very like week 1 kind of game where I don't think the Buccaneers are doing much or are going to be challenging. But I just think I think it's more on Vikings rather than on the Bucs, that kind of game that they might be worse than what people imagine.
And to your halftime note there about Vikings should have been out of sight. This was the Matt Ryan game, right?
Yeah.
So good. To anyone who didn't watch the CBS coverage or see the highlights since, the co-commentator turns to Matt Ryan's like, how are the Vikings not 28-3 at this point? And Matt Ryan's face is like, well, turnovers. Just like, move on, you fucking dickhead. Imagine getting trolled that much in real life.
That's the kind of thing that where Matt Ryan might now be ringing up the Jets going, can I come play for you rather than having to fucking deal with this?
Yeah.
Good stuff. And then I missed the underdog in the over. I picked the same game. So I took the Panthers plus 3.5 at the Falcons and that to be the over 39.5. Neither happened. What did we make of Bryce Young's? I'll get it right. Bryce Young's first outing.
I think more positive than negative, despite all the interceptions. Well, all 2, but like it could have been another third one. I think he got put down. I think he looked pretty poised, and I think that's the word that I'm looking for with Bryce Young, because that's how he was in college. Very poised and very composed. I do have some concerns about the pass catches, which talked about a lot through the preseason. But I think I'm pretty optimistic about Bryce Young. I think he looked pretty good himself. The Falcons defense came to play, though. Jesse Bates for 2 interceptions, and it was up and down. It's week 1 performance with a pretty poor cast of pass catchers, but I think, much more positive than negative, I think, for Bryce Young.
Yeah, my worry would be for Bryce with the 2 interceptions were almost carbon copies of each other.
Yeah.
Which is the worrying. And also, Hayden Hurst is now there. Launch that ball he caught for Bryce's first touchdown pass.
Yeah.
Way into that. Yeah, they ain't getting that back. Poor Bryce. And also thoughts on Atlanta quickly as well. I think, again, probably a theme we're going to see is all in the running backs, wasn't it, really? B. John Robinson's first touchdown was a highlight, absolutely. Just that last be able to stop and go again was brilliant. And Tyler Algier with 2, which I didn't think we'd see, especially from a fantasy perspective, 2 almost goal line rushes for touchdowns. Why is B. John not getting the ball there?
I think that's what it's going to be in Atlanta, though, because, we used to talk for years like Bill Belichick doesn't care about your fantasy team, whereas I think Arthur Smith actively dislikes your fantasy team. Tyler Algier got 15 carries to Bijan's 10.
Yeah,
and I always struggle with the kind of like the Jahmyr Gibbs thing from Thursday night, and a little bit of the Arthur Smith thing of like, hey, if you win the game, I don't really feel like I should criticize what you did, but it's really hard with Arthur Smith because he it feels like he actively doesn't want to use it. The draft Kyle Pitts 4, the draft Drake London 8, I believe, top 10 certainly. Mm-hmm. The draft Bijan 8 again. It's just like, I'm not going to use them. I'm going to throw it to Matt Collins. I'm going to have Desmond Ridder throw it to himself. Well, I know that wasn't a planned play, but it's just so frustrating to what. But I guess if you're daft enough to draft Drake London or you're daft enough to draft Kyle Pitts, then maybe that's on you a little bit for thinking Arthur Smith might change. He's not changing. And whilst they're winning, it's tough to really criticize, but it's definitely frustrating because you want to see the exciting players get exciting players.
Yeah. I mean, sell if you've got Drake London or Cal Pitts, sell, get what you can back for him.
Yeah.
Is rough. And that stat line for Desmond Ridder, in the end of the game, he went 15 of 18 for 115 yards and a touchdown.
It's like the 1940s.
He was at one point, because of what happened with that first throw, he was at 4 for 4 for 0 yards and a touchdown.
I think for a little while it was 1 for 1 for -6.
Yeah, that was where it was the pass was blocked and he caught it instead of just letting it hit the ground. But 4 for 4 for 0 yards and a touchdown. Incredible.
Yeah,
mind blowing.
Let's move on from that. That was a pretty trash game. Byron, you also went 2 for 2, so let's just touch on the games we haven't talked about from yours. So we've talked about the Niners Steelers. You hit the under for that one, under 41. You also hit the over for the Jags Colts. We just talked about Bryce Young. Let's talk about the 4th overall pick from the draft, Andy Richardson. What did you make of his outing for the Colts?
Another one where it's up and down, but I think, again, more up than down. I think he looked better for week 1, certainly. I remember draft night, the 3 of us kind of talking, well, I don't know if Richardson will be ready week 1. It might be a rush to put him in. I think he looked pretty good, to be fair. Certainly not perfect, but I think him and Bryce Young were a step above CJ Stroud. I know we'll get to CJ Stroud in a minute as another one of my losing picks, but I was kind of impressed with Richardson. I thought he looked, like I said, better than anticipated. Not a full playbook, I don't think, by any means. He seemed to only throw to his right, and taking off on scrambles didn't seem to work as well as it does in college. Never does, obviously. But overall, I was impressed with him and optimistic for the future, certainly, and see what it builds.
Just got to be careful with them hits, doesn't he? I know that's what Lauren said, but I think he was out of the game near the end. Just for
when the game's on the line, he's bringing in Minshew because he's not physically capable to play. That is definitely a red flag.
Yeah, and I think it's just that eagerness, isn't it? Because it's the first game, adrenaline, all that, and that's just one he's got to learn quickly. Also, another rookie has got away. Well, in the end, because of the result, has got away with what may have been the bonehead play of the season. Had the Jaguars not ended up
Bigsby.
Winning that game, Tank Bigsby. So obviously Lawrence with Sat affected the throw. It was a fumble. Tank Bigsby picks it up, just stands there, lets the ball get punched out of his hands, and the Colts put it in for a score. That would have gone down as one of the all-time bonehead plays, surely, of just not being switched on at all. I mean, everybody did stop, but you've got the ball, just fucking get down.
Yeah. And I always remember, I forget who the wide receiver was now, but Aaron Rodgers once kind of fumbled the ball forward, and he kind of told the receiver, hey, go pick that up and run it in. And it was touchdown. And I just kind of, it's real easy, I think, sometimes sat on the couch being like, oh, what's this guy? He doesn't know. Just maybe play to the whistle always. It seems like a real obvious thing to say, and especially as a rookie, whatever, but maybe just assume the ball's live if you don't know for certain. I don't know. Those little things really bug me. And I know it is easy sat on the couch being judgmental about it, but fine margin in sports really are, fine margins.
Let's go on to some positives for the Jaguars. Calvin Ridley, I think, was definitely a huge positive for the Jaguars. 8 grabs from 11 targets, 101 yards, and a touchdown. Yeah, what did you make of Ridley's first outing in over 600 days?
Brilliant, yeah. Looked as good as you might hope and as good as advertised, really. Huge, huge positive for the Jags if he can keep this up and be this all season. I think it still issues on the Jags defense, certainly, but they can kind of go toe-to-toe with anyone offensively if this is what they've got. A real number one wide receiver. Christian Kirk was kind of phased out the game plan. He was fully as a slot receiver this week. From a real good year last year as their number one. It just kind of shows what weapons they have. Evan Ingram's still there. Zay Jones has kind of solidified himself as a wide receiver too after, a bit of a dud start to his career, really, in Buffalo. I think the Jags are really ticking on offense, and Ridley is one of the... I put a sneaky little bet on last week just before the thing started. DraftKings were handing out free bets, and it was to go over 1,500 receiving yards, and I think it was 20-1 plus 2,000. I thought, you know what, DraftKings are giving me these free bets to use. I might as well use it on something that's going to be fun to root for. And that's what a real positive start. So
good stuff. The next one you'd again not hit on underdog. You took the Texans plus 10. I think the plus 10 charmed a lot of people. It was a big number and a big number week 1, and not too far away, but they didn't cover it. The Ravens beat the Texans. CJ Stroud again, probably pretty similar, another mixed bag, really.
Yeah, he got better as the game went on, I feel, but it felt too big for him early. I must be honest, I was real concerned. I think one of the things with that plus 10, I thought, and spoke about it last week, is I think the Texans are going to try and keep the game short. They're going to ground and pound. The O-line isn't there for it. The O-line isn't there for much. I don't think with Texans, the Ravens are just getting through at will in the first half. And like I said, I was getting a bit concerned because, it wouldn't be out of character for the Texans to ruin a promising rookie with no O-line. So it felt like every time Stroud was getting the ball, he was running away from defenders, and that's no way to learn on the job. It did get better in the second half, though, and they certainly weren't aggressive on offense to try and I think they knew they weren't winning the game, so they didn't want to get risky and start throwing picks as well as anything else. So I think Stroud kind of managed that okay. Long road to go, I think, for the Texans, maybe more than I anticipated. I think the defense still looked kind of good. But yeah, 10 points was, more than enough for Baltimore. Zay Flowers was very encouraging week 1 as well.
Yeah, and it's crazy because like the Texans coming into the year, we all thought, the offensive line was one of their strong points, but they've just been hit by the injury bug, and it's it's one of the things when you start losing your starters on the line, especially with a rookie quarterback, it starts going a bit downhill. But he did feel close for a while. It felt like Jackson was like playing, like he'd thought they already won the game. It feels like a few like the fumble where he was just running around with his just dangling in his hand and someone just punched it out, and it was just felt like, what are you doing, Lamar? It's like, we've got a game to win here, and it was close at that point, but they obviously stretched it out. And like you said, Zay Flowers looked really well. But again, Ravens are raving where they've like lost quite a few players, haven't they? They've lost the running back for the year with Achilles injury, Dobbins, and they've lost
Dobbins is gone,
Marcus Williams. I think he's going to be on injury reserve, and he needs surgery possibly. And then the centre as well, Linderbaum. Did the left tackle as well get injured? Oh, might be Hobbs. So yes, Ronnie Stanley, I think he went down with an injury as well. So he's just like, like I was saying with the Browns, they've probably come out as a winner just because how two of the teams looked and how many injuries the Ravens are getting. It feels like we repeat, because it felt like this year they've finally gone through the preseason with no massive injuries, which would cause concern. But they can't get through the first game without hitting all them injuries again.
Yeah.
And whatever junk I was talking on Josh Allen and Lamar Jackson's fantasy earlier, Josh Allen did outscore Lamar Jackson this week, just as a FYI to myself before I get too cocky on it. Lamar didn't have a great game. I think the Texans' defense is pretty good. I think there's something there to work with, but I just wanted to call myself out there.
We're holding, it's good that you're holding yourself to account, Byron.
Yeah.
So it's what we're about here. Good stuff. It wasn't a great showing from Lamar. Yeah, Zay Flowers, interesting one. He was on my fantasy bench, so it'd be good to get him mixed in now. And the return of Odell Beckham as well, of course. There, so we'll see. He didn't really get the ball too much, did he? Odell, I think he was only targeted a couple of times. I think he was targeted 3 times, 2 catches, a couple of pass interference calls. And last but not least, Byron, on your card for our FourFold challenge was the Rams at the Seahawks. You had the Seattle Seahawks as your favourite at -5. The Rams went and did a job on them.
Yeah, I think my biggest disappointment of the week was Seattle, especially the offensive line. They were just bullied. And again, we kind of touched on it a little bit with a couple of the coaches here, but coaching matters in the NFL. And Sean McVay, take your hat off to him. That is not a talent-heavy roster. Cooper Kupp is on IR now, and Puka Naku is now the new Cooper Kupp. And Matthew Stafford is looking like he's about to win the Super Bowl again. Can't say enough good things really about LA. And Seattle I'm really worried about because I thought they were going to have a real good year. I don't really think it's on Geno or the skill players or even the O-line was porous. And
both got injured, didn't they? Both tackles, I think.
Yeah.
From rookies last year who had a great first year. It's just...
upcoming this week, they have Aiden Hutchinson coming to town. I think he might have a real fun week if those injuries don't clear up, and I think Gino might be getting some cardio in. I'm massively disappointed with Seattle. I know injuries come, etc., but I thought the Rams were in much worse shape than they are, and I guess I didn't give enough credit to Sean McVay. And to his credit, he's been one of the best coaches since he became a coach, so shouldn't really discredit him so easily. But Rams are really impressive. Matthew Stafford looked really good. There's pretty unknown rookie Puka Nakua, I think I'm saying it correctly.
Yeah, you got it.
Was incredible.
The most sought after waiver wire pick in your fantasy leagues this week.
Yeah, I added him in a few after the Cup injury. I don't think in our league I did. Just to kind of like seeing people who are intelligent talking positive about him, like, we'll throw a chance on him and see what we get. And I didn't start him anywhere because I thought the Seahawks were going to blow the Rams' doors off. I think this is one I said the other day. This is one that I might even have as a 10-point favorite. I didn't think the Rams were going to be in the game. So, a lot of credit to LA because they, like Joe this week, have smashed it.
Yeah. Did you see the video of Gino where he saw Aaron Donald coming towards him?
Genuinely one of my highlights of the week.
Yeah, you would say that if he was running towards you,
And I think your key there, you mentioned how good Matthew Stafford looked, Byron, and a fit and healthy Aaron Donald.
Yeah.
huge difference makers. Huge, your best offense. You've got your quarterback and your best player in Aaron Donald. Yeah, I think the Rams will do okay this year, just on the back. If they have the levels of injury they have had last year to the key players, then no. And I don't know what's going on with Cup, but Stafford clearly trusts these guys. And Nakua had 15 targets, 10 receptions for 119 yards. Tutu Atwell also had 119 yards, 8 targets, 6 catches. He's clearly found a couple of guys who he's happy with. So yeah, be interesting to see how the Rams go. That was you, Byron, and Joe. We've already touched on all the games on your card, so we won't need to go into any detail. But you went 4-0, and not only did you go 4-0, you backed it. And what was it? +645, so 13-2, just short of.
No, that was a different bet I chucked on.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, this one I think I won I put $10 on. It was 160 with a bonus. We bet 365
plus 1500-ish.
So yeah, and it was Cowboys won by 40. Green Bay absolutely smoked the Bears.
Green Bay +1 looks funny now.
Yeah, the Dolphins Chargers, I think it was 70 points. And obviously the Bengals and Browns were 7-3 at halftime. So it was one of the most relaxing FourFolds I think I've ever had to come in week 1. It was happy to.
Good week for you, Joe. Yeah, sorry. So you had this plus 1500, plus 1600. FourFold, and you had the +645 treble in, right, which was the Packers, the Cowboys, and the Eagles against the spread. So well done, good week. Great. This is what we do here at Good Teams and Great Teams. We hand out winners. Go to Joe for your multiple bets, for your parlays. Great start, Joe. Well done. Let's touch on our picks competition before we start to wrap up. I had a bit of a ranted week on that. Byron, didn't go too well for you from a betting perspective on the overall picks, but you had a much better week on the picks. Joe. Yeah, so I think, Byron, you went 10-6. Good work, well done. Joe, you went 9-7. I went 7-9. Mine was rancid. But, I'm not betting on all 16 games every week. 6-3 was the important number to remember. 6-3 on actual bets placed over the course, and very unders heavy I was. But yes, you've got a little lead there, Byron. Already, good stuff. I mean, what were the key differences? Where did you win this week? We all fell on the Commanders, didn't we? We all took the -7 on the Commanders. We all bit on that. You guys both took. Oh no, Byron, you took the Falcons.
Falcons and Tennessee, I think, were the key.
Yeah,
they were the
key ones. Yeah, Tennessee covered in that 15.
Threading the needle, the Saints won, but Titans covered. Yeah,
I think my Steelers one cost me as well.
Yeah,
it's funny because that was the one that if Bosa hadn't signed, I was tempted to go the other way with that one. It was a real tough one, and then you see how it plays out, and
I think there was some good shouts. I think I do like Paul. The Rams one you went for, that was a good shout.
Yeah,
I did like my Buccaneers one. I think I said the preview that was going to be week 1 where it's going to be the weird result, and that ended up being a weird one. And I
was very tempted to take the so I took one of the 6 out my 6-3. One of them was the Rams. Seahawks under. I was tempted to go with the Rams +5 as well, but I just took the under. But I suppose there's only 2 games we haven't touched on, so let's touch on them now, and then we can start wrapping up. So Tennessee, New Orleans is one that we haven't touched on. 16-15, scorigami. First time we've had a 16-15 in the 16-15 in the NFL, and summed up the rancid game that it was, really.
Yeah, I do feel a little bit for Tennessee as well, because I think they were definitely competitive, and they had the Derek Carr fumble, incomplete pass shenanigans. I think that's a football, and I think it was returned for a touchdown as well, right? When you lose by 1 point and you should have had a touchdown, tough to take. But yeah, I think ultimately 2 not very good teams playing a not very good game.
Yeah.
So I think Tennessee better coached. Probably the better unit with the Tennessee defense being better than any of the other 3, but kind of like a nothing burger game early from 2 teams.
Good to see Michael Thomas though, playing, and had a few catches around there. So
yeah, he did.
do.
What week are you giving it before he cries off again?
It was fun to see though Rashid Shaheed getting featured again because he was fun last year, and he has a fun name, he has a fun style. He's never going to be a 150 target player again, but I don't know. It's just nice to see a little fun guy get involved in the game.
Chris Olave, I think, also had a real solid game. I think
Olave is really, really good. Yeah,
built that connection with Derek Carr. You've seen that. So that's that'll be one to keep.
I was disappointed. It was one of my anytime bets on my TD parlay, but let's get Jimmy Graham out for a play or two. Why have you brought him back? I had to check that if he was inactive or not, but he was active, so he just didn't get I'm sure they had a red zone player that could have thrown it to him on.
Yeah. I don't think we're going to see Jimmy Graham too much.
I don't think he'll be on my slip this week.
No. And last but not least, speaking, we've gone from Derek Carr's debut. Let's talk about Sean Payton's Broncos debut. Another rancid game, really.
But Jimmy G wins, Paul. Jimmy G wins.
Jimmy G does what Jimmy G does, and that's win.
Yeah, he has not the greatest game, but somehow pulls it out. Has a few. I saw afterwards. Apparently, he had a few tough runs, and took some big hits to get some points. So, what Jimmy G does that's what he's always done. That's what he did for San Fran. So, not surprised. And it felt like Russell Wilson, even though he played better, feels his stats are very last year, where he had 200 odd yards, but still only, was it 15 points or I can't remember how many points he even got. But
it was 17-16, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So only getting 16 points.
He didn't even get 200 yards. I think it was 170, 175. And after our discussion on the AFC West preview, I got a lot of stick for daring to question whether the Broncos would win the Super Bowl this year. I took a little satisfaction seeing how bad they still look, without wanting to sound petty about it. But you come and get butt whipped by Josh McDaniels and the Jimmy G Raiders. Well, maybe Sean Payton hasn't magically fixed everything. Who would have thought?
Yeah, I left it off my bet list this week just to see how it went first week under Payton. But I'm just going to ride the Broncos unders again until they prove me wrong. I don't care how low that number gets. I don't care if it's 29. I'm still going to back the fucking under because until they can prove to me that they're going to be able to start putting some, because the defense is still really good. And until they can prove to me they can start moving the ball, then I'm just going to keep hammering that under.
And as much as I might like to shit talk about Sean Payton, etc., and be right about it, but I loved the onside kick.
Yeah,
I didn't quite work, and they were really unlucky for it not to work. It was like one of them real marginal touches just before the 10 yards, but ballsy as hell and just fun as hell. And fuck it. I just thought it was a real fun play and great way to start the era.
I think great intent. We talked a little bit about Dan Campbell and his intent earlier on, didn't we, about going for the fake punt on fourth down against the Chiefs. Just great intent. Nice Super Bowl callback as well. That's the intent that we're going with, sort of thing. So it played well in a TV show. That.
Yeah.
Right. Winners and losers quickly, chaps. So just one winner, one loser for the week from each of you, and then we'll move on to Thursday Night Football and wrap up the show for this week.
I would say my winner, I think it's the Browns this week, just because beating probably the biggest rivals in the division and how everyone else is looking. I thought that's a big win. And, there's quite a few losers in there, but I'm going to go the Jets. It just feels like their season's finished with Rodgers out. Just big deflation.
Byron, after you.
The Jets are the loser of the week, but I don't want to copy Joe fully, so I'll go with Chicago Bears. The air is out of the balloon. The quarterback might be walking and running just fine, but it's a real tough first week loss, especially to Green Bay, who no longer have an elite quarterback, as we've heard in Chicagoland for the last few months. Things are going to change. Things did not change. And for my winner, we did... Sorry.
The more things change, the more they stay the same.
Yeah, it's really rough. I feel another fan base I just feel ultimately really sorry for. But being pitted isn't what you want in week one. You want to be celebrated. And my winners, we touched on them earlier. Cleveland is another great shout. But I'll stick in the AFC as well. And for the reasons we discussed earlier, Miami, Mike McDaniel's back in his zone. Tua's fit. They had the best performance in a big game of week 1. And yeah, just things are only rosy in Miami right now.
Yeah, good stuff. My loser of the week, I'm going to go more specific than team. Kadarius Toney, just what a rancid evening he had, and ultimately cost the Jets the game. The Jets, bloody hell, the Chiefs the game. And my winner of the week, I'm going to go Dan Campbell. I think just a huge win for the Detroit Lions. I think we talked about there a little bit with Sean Payton, but again, that intent that he showed around, we're going to go and win this game and we're going to take risks. And he's very much, pedal to the metal all the way, floor to the floor. It's not easy for me to say, foot to the floor, Jesus. And yeah, they went for it, and they were rewarded by upsetting the Chiefs. Last segment then, Thursday Night Football, just a quick one. You don't have to commit to any of your bets now. I think the line's 7.5, so it's Vikings at Eagles. I don't know if it's moved out to 7. When I saw it earlier, I think it was Eagles 7.5 favorites. Is this one just far too easy to call?
I think it's tricky. Just you know what? It's Cousins in prime time, so probably it is easy to call. When you go Cousins and Jefferson, I can see him just piling on the points as well. Again, one of them early season games where team surprises, where a high scoring game. But then I could easily see the Eagles absolutely battering Vikings as well, because I think they've got a point to prove with how they weren't hitting their heights in the first week. So I think they've got a bit to prove as well.
And I think we had this matchup in week 2 last year. I think it was the Monday Night Football game, wasn't it? I think Vikings at Eagles, and I'm pretty sure the Eagles beat them 24-0. Is that right?
I remember it being a big Jalen Hurts game from what I remember.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. I don't know. It's just a line. I think the line will move. I'd be more comfortable if it got to 6.5. But
I just checked. It is 6.5 on DraftKings right now, if that helps.
Okay, cool.
And I did just check as well because I'm that kind of guy. It was 24-7 in week 2 last year. Jalen Hurts got 40 fantasy points, 333 yards, two rushing touchdowns, and a passing touchdown. So yeah, it was a big Jalen Hurts game.
Good stuff. So that's the Thursday night one to look forward to. Gents, thanks ever so much for joining us for our week 1 review. As always, if you're not already, follow us on Spotify, Good Teams and Great Teams Cover. Follow us on YouTube, X, and Instagram with much better posts than there previously has been before. Thank you, Joe. At GTW_GTC. We'll be back on Friday morning with our look at week 2, where you'll get all our predictions, picks, and best bets. And we had such a good first week, 6-3 on the bets. Joe with a couple of parlays, plus 1,500, plus 645. I'm sure Byron will contribute this week. So until Friday, we'll see you again. Oh, I can't now end the recording.